With me in the studio, I'm very pleased to have Max Blumenthal, author, journalist, blogger, senior writer at Alternet. His latest book, The 51-Day War, Ruin and Resistance. So there it is on the screen. Ruin and Resistance in Gaza. You can read his writings over at alternet.org as well. And his Twitter is at Max Blumenthal and at Alternet. Max, welcome.
Good to be on.
Great to have you with us. This book is astonishing. I mean, this is infuriating. The kernel of the book is the 51-day war in Gaza. First of all, why is it called the 51-day war in your book, but most American media refers to it as a 50-day war? And then tell us what that was.
Well, last summer, the armed factions in the Gaza Strip, led by Hamas and its military wing, the Al-Qassam brigades, engaged in a military conflict with the state of Israel, the Israeli army. It lasted 51 days, began on July 7th, actually, when Israel attacked Hamas military facilities inside the Gaza Strip, which led to the first Hamas-authorized launch of rockets into Israel. So it has to be understood as a 51-day war. If you started on July 8th, that fits the Israeli narrative in which Israel was attacked and it simply responded. And of course, if you read my book, you'll find that the war actually, or the context for the war began possibly in April when the peace process collapsed and the U.S. packed up its delegation. Martin Indyk, who had previously been an Israel lobbyist and was now leading negotiations on behalf of the Obama administration, someone who is a pro-Israel partisan, packed up, left, blamed Netanyahu for refusing to make peace, for authorizing more settlements, refusing to release Palestinian prisoners. The Palestinians signed a unity agreement to have a unity government, and we'd always heard Netanyahu say in the past, we can't negotiate with a divided Palestinian polity. And so they're unified, so Netanyahu takes measures to split them up again. It leads to a massive deception in the West Bank centering around the kidnapping and killing of 3 Israeli teens, leads to the burning alive of a Palestinian teen, Mohammed Abu Khader, rioting in Jerusalem, chaos in the West Bank, Israeli raids in the West Bank under the false cover of a rescue operation looking for the 3 teens, when in fact they were simply trying to destroy this unity government. And it ultimately spreads to Gaza. And so on July 7th, Israel attacks, and that's when this war begins. And it was a war because we saw some of the most significant face-to-face confrontations between local fighters in the Gaza Strip, who are basically young men defending their neighborhoods against invading Israeli troops.
One of the real carryaways from that, from your book, for me anyway, was that, you know, sometimes in the United States, gleefully, Democrats say demographics is destiny. You know, as the browning of America happens, the Republican Party, which is the party of the old white guys, is fading in their power. And when you and I were discussing this on TV last week, it was last Friday, I brought up South Africa as a comparison, the apartheid state. But afterwards, I got to thinking, and it seems like a better parallel would be North America when Caucasians from Europe arrived and said, you know, we're going to take this.
Well, I think South Africa is a good parallel. I think the U.S. is an interesting parallel, and there are similarities, but what we're talking about is a settler colonial project in all situations, including in Israel. Israel is the last vital settler colonial project in the world.
What is a settler colonial project?
And so it's when a foreign colonial population is cast out of a country or a continent or a region. And in the case of Israel, you're talking about Jews from around the world coming to historic Palestine, first from Europe, where there was a massive wave of anti-Semitism, and deciding to set up an ethnically exclusive country in an area which is primarily Arab and Muslim. And that requires, first of all, ethnic cleansing. To establish a Jewish state, you have to remove people from their land, from their homes. That's why in 1948, 750,000 indigenous Palestinians were removed. and over 400 Palestinian villages and towns were destroyed. Tens and hundreds of thousands of Palestinian buildings and homes were occupied by the settler colonial group. And then you have to hold that land through discriminatory laws and through violence because you're manipulating demographics. The other option is to commit genocide, as we did in the U.S. Commit genocide on a mass scale and then put the native population on reservations. In Israel, what's been done is, you can make the argument that it was genocide, but it was certainly ethnic cleansing. The ethnic cleansing is continuing before our eyes in the West Bank. There are demolitions of Palestinian homes and villages every day. And the Gaza Strip has basically become a warehouse for surplus humanity. Basically, the people who can't be part of the Jewish state because they're considered a demographic threat, and so they're held in a walled-off ghetto permanently so they can't return. And that's really the root of the crisis here. And behind this crisis is the philosophy of Zionism. That's the philosophy that has propelled the settler colonial project in Israel-Palestine and prevents a solution, because to get rid of Zionism means to have possibly a binational state where everyone has equal rights according to a constitution. And while we have horrible problems in the U.S. with racism, which you discuss on your show every day, we do have, at least legally, the capacity to achieve equality under a constitution. In Israel, discrimination according to an ethno-religious basis is formalized through a series of laws, and there is no constitution. And so
you have no constitutional rights.
And that's why there's a crisis. That's why there's violence every day.
Okay. When we come back, I want to share some Patrick Henry with you. Yeah. And we'll continue this conversation, and there's other news of the day as well. Max Blumenthal, one of America's great public intellectuals, one of our greatest reporters, actually, is and a brilliant author, is with us. The 51-Day War, Ruin and Resistance in Gaza is his most recent book. Check it out.